Hi, Ashley here and welcome to Funky Fresh Food. It's another week of the Great British Bake Off, which means another technical challenge. This week is Bakewell Tarts. I love eating them, but I've never made them before, so if it's successful I can hopefully add it to my regular repertoire. Currently my kitchen looks like this, so again I'm cooking in my living room, but this time I have a new mini oven, so hopefully that'll help me out on this baking challenge. On my marks, get set, bake! So the first thing we have to do is make our jam. We'll put our raspberries and sugar into a small saucepan, mash them about with a fork and then put them on a hob. We'll bring this up to the boil and then let it simmer away for 4 minutes. We'll remove it from the heat, pour it into a shallow tray to let it cool down, and then that's our jam done. Using our fingers, we'll rub together the butter and flour until we have a breadcrumb-like texture. We'll then stir in our icing sugar, crack in an egg and add a couple of tablespoons of water. We'll mix this together until we have our dough. We don't want to handle the dough too much because the less we do, the shorter, crumblier, crispier pastry we'll get. We'll roll the dough out until we have a piece of pastry roughly the size of our tart tin. The bakers and I are both using the same tin. It's a 23cm fluted tart tin with a removable bottom. I've greased mine with a bit of butter before I then line it with pastry. We'll pop this in the fridge for about half an hour for it to firm up. Before we put our pastry tin in the oven, I'm going to stab the base with a fork to get a few holes in it, line the case with greaseproof paper, pour in some baking beads and put it in the oven to bake for around 15 minutes at 200 degrees. We'll then remove it from the oven, take out the baking beads and the greaseproof paper and pop it back into the oven for another 5 to 10 minutes until it's crisped up a bit. Whilst our pastry case is in the oven, we can crack on with the almond frangipane. In a bowl we'll cream together our butter and sugar before adding our ground almonds, almond extract and an egg. We'll mix this together and then that's our almond frangipane mixture done. Once our pastry case is out of the oven, we can start layering up our tart. We'll start with raspberry jam on the bottom, about 4 tablespoons. We'll then top that with our almond frangipane mixture, making sure that all the mixture goes to the edges, but also being careful not to disturb the jam below because you want them to have distinct layers. We'll smooth out the top of the almond frangipane. I'm just using a spatula for this, but if you've got one you could use a palette knife, and then we'll pop it in the oven to bake. Depending on the oven it could take different times. My recipe says around 25 to 35 minutes at 180, but my oven I'm not quite used to it yet, so I've ended up having it in there for about 45 to 50 minutes. Once it's out of the oven, we'll leave it to cool on a wire rack. Now the bakers are probably going to be panicking and fanning their tarts to cool them down, but as I don't have Paul Hollywood breathing down my neck, I'm just going to leave it and come back to it later. Now my tart's fully cool, I'm going to crack on with my icing. To a bowl I'm going to add my icing sugar, almond extract and water and mix it together until I have a fairly thick paste. I'm going on the thicker side because I don't want it to run off the edge of my tart. I'm going to take about a tablespoon of the icing out and put it in a bowl with a couple of drops of food colouring. This will create the lovely pink decoration on top. Evenly spread the white icing on top of your tart, put your pink icing into a piping bag and then pipe parallel lines. In the recipe it says drag a cocktail stick through the pink parallel lines to create a feathered effect. Now when I did that it just created a break in the line, so I think that's probably because my icing's a little bit on the thick side. So I'm going to forget the feather effect and just go for a crisscross pattern instead. Now all we have to do is let it set up to one side and then we're ready to serve. So I've watched the technical challenge now and I've got to say I'm really pleased with myself because my Bakewell Tart looks amazing. Yeah, it doesn't have the feathered effect on top, but it just, I'm so happy. Pastry looks good, not a soggy bottom inside. It's got distinct layers, thin pastry, bit of jam, the frangipane, icing. Yeah, it looks amazing. I've got to taste it. Wow. That is incredible. Mr. Kipling would be proud, and Mary Berry, and Paul. Woo. Yeah, definitely need a cup of tea with that one, but that is delicious. But yeah, I reckon I could have even come in the top 3, maybe not with the time limit because I know they really were pushed, but that is delicious. If you've enjoyed today's recipe then please give me a thumbs up, and if you want to stay up to date with all my future recipes then please subscribe. I am gonna make my way through this now with a couple of cups of tea, I think, for sure. Bye.